Hey, I'm back with Axe Cop, trigger warning, and Chief McRaney's just gone to the groundskeeper's office where he finds his old friend's dead body. And, of course, he is immediately attacked. McRaney, being of the same warrior cowboy ilk as young Jake, puts up one hell of a fight for several pages with weird details of how this one day from retirement cop is fending off his young attacker. Every fight in this book is described blow by blow like an enthusiastic kid. McRaney actually manages to kill his assailant, who was just a disposable terrorist. He's badly wounded, though. I'll let him rest for a while. Let's check on Jake. He's been called back to President Peltier due to his recent fight. I would edit out these repeated scenes, but they always bring a fresh spin on things. Your presence here is a serious disruption to the learning environment. Why? Because I'm a conservative? Shouldn't there be room for all viewpoints, not the ones devoted to hate? This is an actual good point that the author must have picked up when talking to someone intelligent at some point. This next bit, though, I guess I'd kinda hoped that this book was set in a near-future America under Democrat rule, with a black lesbian president and an affirmative action Supreme Court. But no, it's set now, early in the term of Donald Trump, and poor conservative Jake feels unwelcome in Texas. To counter the idea that conservatism is hateful, he offers, "Look around the country. Unemployment's down, the economy's growing, like America's becoming great again." Okay, first, those things are the result of Obama's presidency. If you like those things, then you like Democrats. And if you're looking for hate under Trump, the environment's being destroyed, trans people's identity suddenly doesn't count, white supremacy and anti-Semitism are on the rise, and the puerile president is basically encouraging them. If you support Trump's presidency and you're not hateful, then you're ignorant. Things keep getting better. The only ones who call him a lunatic are people like you and your echo chambers. Donald Trump has a long history of sexual assault.
Grab him by the pussy.
Is unhinged on his Twitter. Clearly knows very little about global affairs. Is racist, sexist, ableist, the whole alphabet of scarlet letters. I know this book was written before Trump said and did some horrible things, but it was also written after Trump said and did loads of horrible things. Peltier, a university president and devoted Democrat, can't come up with anything like that about Trump. He just goes red and dismisses Jake. I know this is a classic wise-ass protag versus authority figure tableau. I've seen it many times, and I've been that kid a good few times. But here there's a fundamental flaw to the setup. The establishment role is intrinsically conservative, so Peltier is a conservative character to his liberal beliefs. He's closed-minded with his interpretation of open-mindedness. And that's a feasible folly of some of the left, where they lose focus of their alleged progressive principles. But then you cast the wild child role, and he likes trickle-down economics and racism. He wants to open minds to closed-mindedness. It doesn't scan. Jake points out, "You can't kick me out, not without falsifying a lot of records." "Don't be so sure I couldn't do that," said the college principal. He probably could. After all, the left specialized in spinning false narratives. They'd supported Hillary, hadn't they? On his way out of the office, Jake tells the secretary, "Sorry, he's gonna be a bear the rest of the day." Did I miss a sex scene? Speaking of, back to the love interest, of course. Jake wasn't sure where things stood with Natalie. He didn't really know her political beliefs. Being a criminal justice teacher, she must have been exposed to a lot of sociological claptrap. Jake has that hatred of sociology that a lot of willingly stupid people have. As if all of the other sciences are dignified, but we mustn't look into how we talk to and treat each other. You know, literally most of life. Jake had heard it said that politics had replaced religion for the left, and he firmly believed that was true. Could you say he worshipped the concept. Anyway, he meets Natalie in the library. Their relationship seems to consist entirely of ironic citations of microaggressions. Jake happened to notice Pierce with his study group, one of whom was a young Middle Eastern guy. Jake knew a lot of people would call this racist, but when he saw someone like that's someone of a particular race, he tensed up a bit. Right, so first, that's literally racism, but get that out of the way, and he's a war veteran, so it's feasible to say that his racist reaction comes from trauma. This is what therapy is for. Of course, in this case, the one Middle Eastern character in this world is a fundamentalist with murderous intentions, which kind of pisses all over that conversation at the expense of an entire race. I'm sorry. The Antifa guys, disguised as groundskeepers, are sweeping into the library, needlessly murdering anyone who gets in the way. The one female terrorist they remembered to include, Lucy, sweet Lucy, is separated out. Somehow, from a distance, the leader can tell that she doesn't look quite as keen as she should. The leader, Matthias, shoots into the air and says, "Everyone do as you're told, or we're all gonna die." Marjorie tried to hide under a table, but it wasn't big enough. Jokes about Marjorie's size. Curiously, they don't say things like this about Jake, who's confirmed to weigh 250 pounds. Fareed is both derided for being scared and shown as stupidly resistant. "I grovel to no American." Dude moved to America if he's not American himself. The book doesn't go into why he chose to live somewhere where he hates everybody. The gunman was white, young, average-looking. Nothing about him shouted mass shooter. Have you read the news, ever? Matthias is an unsatisfied straight white man in his 20s who fawns after a young woman who has him friend-zoned and has a clear envy of someone he interprets as an alpha male. That's directly the US mass shooter profile in the 21st century. Jake, of course, reacted with military efficiency and set about his plan to disarm, whilst getting a hard-on from identifying the handgun and thinking how stupid the idea of gun-free zones is. They're practically an invitation for violence. Unlike carrying guns in public, we're granted a bit of backstory on Matthias. The book is strangely sympathetic as it tries to explain his motive. He's a Calton graduate with a wiry physique. Basically, every man in this book, apart from Jake and a fat guy, is described as wiry. He never managed to fit in at Calton because he wasn't rich like everyone else. Here, the book could try claiming that people hated him because he's white and male. That's consistent with the narrative ethos. Doesn't bother. The only reason it cites is because he's poor. And again, I can't really falsify that because the author made this world. It's an awkward combination of the concepts of the liberal elite and social justice, which tries to rebalance things away from the elite and toward the underprivileged. I know this is a familiar claim of why Trump won, because of disillusioned, poor, everyday Americans who still weren't winning when all of those black and gay people were. This is slightly a real thing, it's just that conservatism is definitely not the solution. Maybe socialism is. Okay, I will not advocate socialism in front of this book again.
Next time on Trigger Warning, the ransom demands. Sensible conservative people being brave and cocky, libtards being freaking libtards.